At this time, he was trapped on the cliff and couldn't move at all. The desperate boy screamed loudly. However, there was no one in the place where the bird didn't poop. If it goes on like this, he will be starved to death sooner or later. So the boy had a bold idea. He carefully climbed down, but because the 90-degree cliff was too steep, the boy almost fell off the cliff. Fortunately, he caught the stone phoenix in time to save his life. But at this time, his situation was not optimistic. The whole person was hanging in the air. What's worse is that the weather changed in an instant. As the heavy rain continued to fall, the cliffs on the cliff became more and more slippery. The scary thing is that the boy's physical strength is also exhausted. Looking at the ground below, turning into an endless sea, he realized that this may be his only chance to survive. He began to try to jump down, but it was too high. But he understood that if he didn't jump, he would only die. Finally, he had the courage to dive for a month. The next day, Nanhai woke up from mud. He struggled to get up. At this time, one of his legs could no longer move. He climbed to the side of a water pit and drank a sip of wine from 20,000 years ago. He also accidentally found an earthworm. After the wine was full, he took out his right foot from the boot. It's just that the whole foot has been cut off. It looks pretty serious. Nanhai moved 2 stones to hold his right foot. He bit his teeth and clenched his bones, and then he found a wooden stick to fix his ankle and made himself a simple nail. After a while, the boy began to walk. He walked very far, and finally reached the top of the cliff. At the edge of the cliff, he found the tombstone that his father had laid for him. It turned out that his father was the leader of the tribe. After he fell off the cliff that day, everyone thought he was dead. Only his father shouted at him all night at the edge of the cliff. But for the safety of the tribe, his father could only take his people back because there were still women and children in the tribe who needed care. Knowing that his father had long left, he helplessly lay on the ground and suddenly heard the sound of a wolf howl. He looked up and saw a group of wild wolves from a distance. He turned in the opposite direction, but the wolves were too fast, and he was soon caught up. He tried to climb the tree, but was bitten by a wolf. At a critical moment, Koda stabbed the wolf with a dagger. This is how he escaped the danger of climbing the tree. But the wolves didn't want to leave, and they were screaming at the moon at night. Koda slept soundly in the howl. Not long after, the wolves finally left. Only the wounded wolf was left. Koda tied the knife to the stick and made a long hair for himself. Then slowly walked towards the wolf, raised his weapon, and prepared to kill him completely. But when the wolf slowly opened his eyes and made a terrible low sound, Koda hesitated. Although his father had taught him to kill countless times, he never succeeded. This time, he also untied the rope on the weapon and tied the wolf's mouth with the rope. Koda carried the wolf to the river and patiently cleaned his wound. At night, Koda and the wolf rested in the cave. The next day, when he woke up, he noticed that the wolf was staring at him. Koda didn't care. He came out and picked up some herbs, crushed them, and put them on his feet. The wolf took advantage of this time to pull off the rope on his mouth. He poked Koda's mouth with his teeth, but Koda put the water on the wolf's mouth. The wolf also drank it up. What they need most now is food. But winter is coming. Except for some bugs, there is almost nothing else. He first scattered the bugs on the wound of the wolf, and throw it to the wolf. In the end, it's his turn to be cautious. There's no way to go on like this. Koda gathered up his courage and killed a wild rabbit. Then he started to burn the wood, smelled the meaty wolf, and immediately turned around. But he was driven away by Koda. He stared at the wolf and bit a piece of raw meat, but he still wanted to eat the cooked one. He tried his best to light a pile of fire. Koda ate a meal as he wished. He threw the rest of the meat and bones to the wolf. At night, Koda wanted to get closer to the wolf, but he couldn't do it. Just like this, a man and a wolf looked up at the starry sky. Gradually, Koda began to miss his hometown. Although he didn't know where his parents had gone, he had to try as soon as possible because the sacred road back home was about to be covered with snow. The next day, he wanted to say goodbye to the wolf, but the wolf bit his scarf. He thanked the wolf for his company and let him go back to his wolf pack. But soon after he left, the wolf followed him. He could only keep driving and throwing branches at him. He picked up the stick and continued to follow. With the wolf's company, Koda no longer had to worry about food. Although his hunting skills are poor, the wolf is a master of hunting. Kaida gave the wolf a name, Alpha, and gave him cooked food every day. This is how the first dog in human history was born. In the middle of the night, the fire was extinguished, and Alpha saw Kaida's frozen hair. He took the initiative to come to Kaida's side and warm her up with his body. The next morning, Kaida was woken up by Alpha. Happy Fish found Alpha's smell terrible, so Alpha was thrown into the river. In order to thank Kaida for forcing himself to bathe, he also caught a fish as a thank you gift. One man, one wolf became the best partner for each other. In the winter, Alpha was in charge of hunting. Kaida gave a fatal blow. The cooperation between the two became more and more tacit. But one night, a black wolf broke into their territory. Kaida immediately picked up the long hair, but Alpha walked slowly. Kaida looked carefully and found that it was the bow and arrow that followed the scent. Faced with Alpha's inquisitive eyes, Kaida decided to let him return to the tribe. Without Alpha, Kaida could only move forward alone, but one day, when he crossed an ice wall, he accidentally stepped on the ice and fell down. The water flow of Tuanji rushed Kaida away, and no matter how hard he hit, he couldn't find any other exit. At this time, Alpha suddenly appeared, and he didn't see the effect for a few times, and he jumped high to break the ice, but it didn't work at all. At this time, Kaida pulled out a dagger and kept hitting the ice, and eventually he broke a piece of ice, which escaped the water surface. Alpha saw this and rushed to help, and then Kaida lit the fire. He took off his wet clothes and hugged Alpha in the snow, which made people admire the original person's physical quality. This time Alpha didn't leave and continued to accompany Kaida on the road. Not long after, they found a camp, and Kaida ran over. But when he walked in, he found that the hunters in the camp had frozen to ice. And when he went into the tent, he found that there was nothing but food inside, and he was so angry that he had a sequelae. Fortunately, there is still a bow and arrow here. The boy can only keep running, but there is a storm in front of him, and a group of hunters are behind him. The boy can only rush into the storm with Alpha. Fortunately, they found a cave, and the storm covered their steps. The hunters did not find it, but Alpha served the cave. A fierce tiger suddenly rushed towards the boy. Alpha rushed up to fight with him, but the small body is not an opponent at all, can only be knocked down again, and stand up again at the critical moment. The boy pulled the sword and shot the fierce tiger, but Alpha was also pressed under the body under the boy's call. Alpha walked out with difficulty, but Alpha fell down in the next second. Alpha is seriously injured and can't find herbs here, can only rely on himself to fight. The boy decided to speed up and return to the tribe, but the fierce storm is a little bit of their willpower in the end. Alpha fell down first day, a little more physical strength in this snowy place. There's a hope of survival, but Nanhai still holds Alpha and continues to travel. I don't know how long he's been gone, but there is still endless white snow in front of him. Nanhai has finally reached the limit and slept with Alpha. In his sleep, Nanhai saw his parents and was looking forward to his return. Nanhai was shocked and continued to hold Alpha to travel. He finally saw the tribe in front of him. Nanhai looked excitedly at Alpha in his arms, and then walked step by step to the tribe. The father was surprised to see his son coming back. He couldn't believe how his son came back. At this time, the boy couldn't hold on anymore and couldn't fall down. His father walked over, then held the boy in his arms. His mother also rushed over. The boy fainted and told his father at the last minute to hurry up and save Alpha. When the boy woke up again, he looked down at Alpha lying on the ground. At this time, the godmother was carefully taking care of Alpha. Suddenly, the godmother found something. She saw him slowly lift a wolf cub. Everyone was shocked. It turns out that Alpha has always been pregnant with a child to protect herself. The boy leaned on Alpha and slowly touched him. Thanks to Alpha's companionship, the first dog of mankind was also born. Soon after, the wolf cub grew up and hunted with the tribe. They also became the strongest tribe at that time.